The joys of modern driving. Most of us have a mobile phone nowadays and they benefit from wireless charging. And if you're driving a 2024 Model Y Tesla like me, you've got all the comforts in your cockpit. Stick the phone down and off it goes, it charges. I can make calls all at the touch of a button. But if you're driving a 20-year-old Audi TT Mk1, we know things are very different. So let's look at our options for the Audi TT Mk1 and mobile phones. When it comes to mobile phone options in the Mk1 TT, you are quite limited of where you can put it. The car's not designed with mobile phones in mind. Yes, mobile phones were around when the car was created, but they weren't really the everyday item that we use today. Compared to the phones that were around just as the car was launched, mobile phones today are much bigger, completely different shape in fact. So there's not really any consideration into the design of the interior of the Audi TT Mk1 for taking a mobile phone. So you've got to get creative. Now, if you're lucky enough to have a cup holder like so, just between the front seats, you might get away with being able to put your phone in the cup holder for storage. However, it's not an ideal place to have a mobile phone because it's behind you and it reduces the number of options you've got for storing drinks. Also, there's no charging options down here, although I have seen some cars that have an old mobile phone style port just in the center console here. So we need to look at the front of the car, as most modern cars, as we've seen with the Tesla, have got all of their audio visual at the front of the car. Unfortunately for the TT, there's nowhere to really put my phone down here, even though there's a few cubby holes, without fouling the gear stick. So your only place to really store a mobile phone is on the screen itself, with a sucker on the screen, but that is going to affect your vision. Or you can get something that clips into the vents to hold your phone. Of course, storing the phone is not your only consideration. You also need some way of charging it. Now, most mobile phones today have wireless charging, but getting wireless charging into a car is not always ideal. Retrofitting it is quite tricky because you need somewhere nice and firm to put the phone, or something magnetic to hold the phone. So you need to find something aftermarket. Now, I've been lucky enough to be sent two such devices from a company called ZeeHoo. Now, I'm not being paid to talk about their devices today, and I did tell the company when they sent them to me, if I don't like them, I will be very honest. So the first device that we're going to look at is the IC80. So it's this round disc here, and you can see it's connected to one of my air vents. For attaching this to the vent, now the vent isn't strong enough to hold this up the whole time, so it will drop down if you mount it on the vent, but it's got this wing nut, if you probably see here, and that holds this clamp tight around your vents. So that's the way in which this stays on the vent. And you will notice it's got a wire into it, which is connected via a USB-C, and the other end of it is the old style USB. So you need somewhere in the car to plug it in. Now, you may have seen a previous video of mine where I cover Bluetooth radio transmitters for the radio, so you can play your mobile phone Spotify through your existing radio in the car. And that's what I'm going to use to power this. So the USB that comes with the charger clicks into my existing Bluetooth device, goes in the cigarette lighter, which I'm going to plug in, and it will come to life. So as we've mentioned, this is a magnetic wireless charger. So the idea being the wire will run to the device in the car, so there is still a wire as such, but your phone connects to it wirelessly, and it does that through a magnet. So the idea being you've got your mobile phone and you place it literally over the magnet. Now, I've done that with the case on the phone, and one thing I've noticed is if you have a case on your mobile phone, the magnet is not strong enough to hold it in place. So if I drive along over a bump, it's going to fall off. So one thing I have to do if I'm going to be using my mobile phone in the car with this device, take it out of its case, and then, well, you probably heard that, it snatched it straight out of my hand. Now, if I feel that it's nice and secure, it's not coming off there. Now, I can remove it, obviously, but it's not coming off without some intervention by me. Now, once you've connected the wire from the cigarette lighter into the device, you'll see there's a small green light here that shows you there's power getting to the device. So one thing to consider, if you don't use the car very often, make sure you unplug this from the cigarette lighter, or just here from the connector. Otherwise it will drain your battery over time and you'll end up with a flat battery. Now, one of the other concerns I had about using a device such as this is charging devices tend to get quite hot. Now, I've used this on a journey of a couple of hours to charge my phone up from quite flat, and it does charge the phone quite quickly also, and the device doesn't get warm at all, so that's a really big plus point. On the small instruction manual, it does also point out that if you are going to connect this to a USB charger in the cigarette port, that it recommends you use a 2 amp or 12 volt version of the device, because running it with 5 volt and 1 amp just doesn't have the power to deliver the current you need to charge the phone. And I'm sure if I had some time to set it all up, I could tuck it behind the console and have the wire popping out from just behind the radio. I think we should take the car for a spin and see if the phone stays put. And the road's quite uneven here, so if it was going to be knocked off, it would do so. Now, I've removed the phone from the case because with the case on, the magnetic charger is just not strong enough to hold it in place. But the phone is currently vertical on the stand, 90 degrees to the horizontal, and it's holding fine, so it's doing a good job. Now, the all important thing is, does it charge? Well, the answer to that is yes. When the phone is in position, I can see the little lightning bolt. So Audi Charger's phone is charging. Now, obviously, one thing that phones do suffer from when charging on these wireless chargers is they get hot. So I think a good test is going to be to see how hot this charger gets once we're underway. We can see this device gets my thumbs up because the magnet holds the phone nice and stable when driving, doesn't let it fall off. It charges the phone nice and quickly, and it also doesn't get too hot. There's no heat through that whatsoever. So the bracket also seems to be full of lots of options for where you want to pivot it to. So I'd actually recommend one of these for your car. So let's swap it out for the second device, which rather than a magnet is a cradle. So what do we get? This device, if we release all of the locks, as you can see, is a ball joint once again for our device, but it's also a sucker for the windscreen. So this one you're going to mount on the windscreen instead. Right, so I made a mistake here by not reading the instructions. I tried and tried to mount this on the screen, and no matter what angle I used, I could not get enough clearance between the windscreen and the top of the phone to angle it towards me. Turns out this is not for mounting on the windscreen, but is in fact a dash mount bracket that suckers to the dash. Also in the package is this cradle for the phone. Now, I have tried this and it does make sure that it fits my phone nicely inside it. It does extend quite well. Now, I've got just a normal sized iPhone here. You can see you can shut the arms around the phone, push it up and down as you need to, and it will hold the phone nice and stable. So the holder for it has this ball joint on the back, which you remove the nut, put it over the ball joint, put it onto the ball joint, tighten it up, holds the phone nice and stable, and it gives you a complete rotation of the phone where you want it. But again, this is a wireless charger, so the actual wire for it goes into the device itself, so your phone is wirelessly charged. Now, it is quite bulky, this one, I have to say. It's quite a big device. You can probably see here that if I give it a tap, it's vibrating. Now, if I take that down the road, that's going to be jumping all over the shop on the roads where I live. Now, when I've connected this up as a test, this device charged the phone just as quick as the previous one. It's quite good for that. It does charge your phone nice and quick, and it doesn't get too hot. However, I feel this one in particular is not really suited for the Audi TT Mk1, just due to the fact that you cannot get the phone in a really good position without causing too much loss of vision. So my recommendation to you would be to use the first charger that I pointed out that clicks onto your air vents rather than this one. Right, so after actually reading the instructions for this, this is actually meant to mount on your dashboard of all things. So you're meant to peel this sticker off like so, stick it to the dashboard and then wait 15 minutes and it should be stuck. It does mention on the sticker, stick it to a flat dash. Well, I'm looking on the Audi dash and I cannot see a flat part of that. Well, not a really flat part of it anyway. And we're not going to stick it onto the dash for too long because it's not the bracket for me anyway. I much prefer the other one. But I am going to stick it on and see if it holds. Let's have a look. So this is probably the flattest part on the passenger side. So if we stick that down and then we lock it, yeah, to be fair, that does actually hold. So if we put the phone in the holder now, it does still wobble around quite a bit though. That's my big concern about this, is the fact that it doesn't hold it nice and tight. So that's my view as a driver of the vision restriction. So it is quite high above the dash and it is blocking some of my vision. But at least it's now not impeding all of the screen, which is where I thought it went. So out of the two mobile phone mounts, I definitely think this is the one for me, the magnetised one. It's not impeding my vision. It works the same and charges the same as the sucker one, but the sucker one moves around, whereas this is rock solid. Definitely the one for me. So hopefully that's been quite insightful and it's helped you make up a decision about how you're going to mount your mobile phone in your Audi TT Mk1. If you found this video has helped, then please do give it a thumbs up and also think about subscribing to my channel where you'll find a whole host of content on the Audi TT Mk1. As always, thanks for watching. See you soon. Take care. Let's get this mobile phone off.